Hello friends, so in this video we'll be talking about something really interesting. So I remember a question in most probably in Quora that what is the magic place in universe. So whenever you think of such things, the first thing that comes in your mind, that should come in most people's mind, is black holes. So first of all, let me show you the image of a black hole. This here, as most people more or less have seen this image, this is the image of the first black hole that we have been able to capture. But first of all, let's look at black holes. So we will be discussing many things about black holes in this video. First of all, before going into black holes, first of all, we have to understand the concept of stars. So basically, stars are born when some dust clouds of some gases, predominantly hydrogen gases, they collapse under the action of gravity. They come together and collapse to such distances, so that the internuclear distance, that is the distance between the nuclei, they become so small enough for nuclear fusion reactions to start. For nuclear fusion reactions to start. So I'll try to make a video on fission and fusion. So nuclear fission basically it occurs in plasma state, and you need tremendous temperature for that, tremendous temperature energy, because nuclei positively charged, but still you have to fuse them together, fuse both the nuclei together. So for that you need obviously you need tremendous amount of energy, and all those nuclei must be when they're fused, they fuse together and they become different kind of matter. For instance, hydrogen can turn into helium by nuclear fusion reactions, and obviously they release a great amount of energy. So there's a balance between the gravitational energy and the nuclear energy, and this balance keeps a star stable. So suppose it's a star, so the gravitational energy will tend to collapse the star, it will act like this, but the nuclear energy will tend to blow apart the star. So there's a balance between these two forces, but not indefinitely. There's a balance only for some time. First of all, some hydrogen that is left, first of all the hydrogen will fuse into helium, and for that we get some pressure, some radiation pressure it's called basically. So in all these things they will tend to keep the star stable, and that's why the star does not collapse, okay, just when it is born. And after that, once the star grows, and then we get heavier matters, like not just hydrogen, helium, then newer elements are formed, but this can go on only till iron. Okay, and once it reaches iron, the star, due to the tremendous temperature, it's very hot there, so the atmosphere of the star expands outwards. The atmosphere of the star expands outward, and you get a stage called red giant. So, but once we have crossed iron, no more elements can be synthesized. By the way, this process is called nucleosynthesis. After that, no more elements can be synthesized by the star, and then we can say that the star has extinguished. The star has ended up exhausted all its nuclear fuel. So in this case, obviously we would expect gravity to take over. In this case, the inward force, the collapsing force, will be more than the force that is the nuclear force. Okay. So this depends on basically let 1 m represent the mass of our sun. Okay, mass of our sun. So now this is the concept of Chandrasekhar limit. Okay, once we have a star, now once the star has reached iron status, you know what I mean. Once the star cannot say nucleosynthesis anymore, then three things can happen. Okay, first of all, either it will collapse into a white dwarf. This basically happens for very this is the Chandrasekhar limit. Basically, it basically happens for very very light stars. Mass is generally lesser than 1 m. Or else we could also get a neutron star. White dwarf is basically it also collapses under gravity, but to a finite extent. And obviously, white dwarfs are very dense. It is approximately the mass of our sun itself, but the size is our Earth. So our Earth is very small as compared to the sun, so you can understand it's really dense. Then we get a neutron star. It is more dense. It's extremely dense. Okay, it's more dense still. If you keep all the neutrons together, there is no distance. What in an atom we already know that the nucleus occupies the very heart of the atom, and there is a lot of it is basically empty space. And if you take in the view of modern quantum mechanics, then it's not exactly empty space, but still it's not dense. The nucleus basically, most of the wave function of the nucleus is at the center. Okay, it's very tiny. But in case of neutron star, you're just putting all those nucleus which are extremely dense very close, and neutron stars are obviously very dense. The third thing is the most interesting thing. When the mass of the star is greater than 3 m, that is 3 times the mass of our sun or more, this is basically called the Chandrasekhar limit. In that case, there will be the final collapse of the star under gravity. In that case, the gravity will become so immense. Obviously, we know that gravity is directly proportional to mass. In Newtonian mechanics, obviously we know that F equals g m1 m2 over r square, but obviously that is flawed. But even if we take into consideration general theory of relativity, then the space-time is just a continuum. Time is treated as a fourth dimension here, okay? And more massive the object is, the star is, more will be the curvature. And if it is greater than this mass at this stage, okay, then it will collapse into a black hole. In that case, it will collapse into a black hole, and black hole is basically, it means that there is an infinite space-time curvature. So you all know that it basically looks like this, okay. And black holes are actually, it's very simple to understand the basic concept, because why it is simple, because we ourselves don't know anything about black hole. Yeah, almost anything about black hole. Everything is a black hole is just like predictions and so. But we already have the image of a black hole. Remember that. So that's again a great achievement. So basically, when the curvature of space-time becomes infinite, what does this mean? Obviously, it's a so massive black hole. That means nothing can escape this. For instance, here there is a little space-time curvature. This curvature is due to the sun, and Earth is revolving around the sun due to this curvature. But anyway, the Earth is not revolving into the sun; it's revolving around the sun. Okay. But in case of black hole, what happens? In case of black hole, this curvature becomes infinite, and nothing can escape this black hole. This is the only thing that everybody knows about black hole, even person who have a non-scientific background, because the gravitational pull of a black hole is immense. Even light cannot escape it. And I think you would know the concept of world line that was proposed by most probably Einstein. A world line concept, basically you can represent like everything as a line, okay, world line in a graph. So with time, obviously this line is like one axis is time, and after your death, the world lines of all of your individual molecules, they will just like bifurcate. And anyway, so in a black hole, all the world lines of everything, they just move on to this point called singularity. Singularity basically means we don't know anything about it. And as because even light cannot escape the immense gravitational pull of a black holes obviously that's why they are called black. We cannot see a black hole. But obviously black hole is not just a hole which is dark. Then how did we get that image of a black hole? For that, let's discuss more about black holes. The black holes prediction was actually given by Einstein and Schwarzschild. There was a Schwarzschild matrix. So in Einstein's general theory of relativity, I will not be discussing that here. Even that's I also don't know everything about that, and that's a really like too much mathematical and advanced topic. So, but Schwarzschild matrix is one possible solution of Einstein's field equations, and that solution allows for black holes. Okay. So basically, if we assume that this is our black hole, this sphere, okay. If we assume this is our black hole in the center, that means then basically this is called the event horizon. Event horizon is a fine line. It separates between our world and the world inside the black hole. When it's a world inside the black hole, we know absolutely nothing of the world, and even the existence of anything in this world is questionable. It is questionable because we don't know anything about that world. And once you cross the event horizon of the black hole, there is no coming back. It's also called the point of no return. And this radius here, it is called Schwarzschild radius, or RS, named after German physicist Karl Schwarzschild. So this is called Schwarzschild radius, okay. And if you want to, and a safe distance is approximately 3 Schwarzschild radius. Let's assume the distance is 3 Schwarzschild radius. So approximately 3 Schwarzschild radius. At this point, you can get a disk, okay, like this sort of disk, and it consists of like dust clouds and swirling matter. And these matters and these clouds and these particles which are present in this disk, they actually travel at near light velocities. I mean, they're traveling very fast, and only at this distance nothing happens, so we can even perceive them. But if they enter the event horizon, we will never be able to perceive it. That's all. Now the thing is that only one thing can orbit the black hole even closer than this distance, and that is light. Light can successfully orbit the black hole at this point. But if it goes too near, there is no coming back even for light. We all know that. Okay, so it must not cross the event horizon. That is for sure. These motions of these particles, they are really chaotic. They goes on in the chaotic fashion. Okay, and this you can call the light disk. But the most important thing about black hole is that black hole has infinite space-time curvature, and that is why it is very hard to visualize black holes. So I showed you the image, and even in the Interstellar, the black hole was visualized something like this. Okay, there was a disk like this, and you could see a semicircle on the top, and like this. Okay, something like this. Well, now why should a black hole look like this basically? Because it's very hard to visualize. Why? Because black hole warps the space-time around it. In fact, you can understand this like this. Suppose this is our space-time coordinate. Let us assume this is time and this is space. So in a black hole, these coordinates get reversed. That is, time begins to act like space, and this coordinate begins to act like time. Okay, and vice versa. So why this happens basically? Because once you are inside the black hole, what happens basically, in a space coordinate we can choose to move forward or backward, right? We all know we can go forward and backward in space, but we can't go forward and backward in time. Time can only run forward. That's the arrow of time. And if you're interested in this, you can also check out Boltzmann's concepts like the arrow of time, this entropy and all these things, really interesting. But inside a black hole, the space acts like time in the sense, even in space you cannot come back. Once you go inside, there's no way of coming back. So the space coordinates becomes one dimension, like one direction. Points are only one direction. And for time, we really don't know what happens. It would be premature to say that in black hole, like it's premature to say that time is running backwards. It makes no sense. Time is a bit strange. Okay. But anyway, so we can't now exactly tell what happens inside black hole. Nobody can say that. But anyway, there's a sort of like space acts like time. That's for sure. Like there's no coming back. That's for sure. Now, if a person, if he approaches the black hole. Now, if an observer is watching it from outside, from a safe distance, okay, let's say from here. This is again not a safe distance for an observer, okay. This might be a safe distance for light. So then what would the observer see? Basically, more this person approaches the black hole, time will slow down for it. And once the person crosses the event horizon, the observer would see that the person is fixed in the event horizon. Why? Because logic is saying us that this person should take an infinite amount of time to fall through. This person will not feel it. This person will just fall through the black hole. And obviously, what will happen if you fall through the black hole? Suppose you are a person, your legs will first be pulled by the gravitational pull like this. I mean, you will be spaghettified, just like us spaghettified. Like you will be stressed because the inch by inch, even like Planck length by Planck length, the gravitational force is increasing. And obviously, it will first of all it will act on your. If you are falling headlong, that's a different matter. But if you are falling like this, it will first of all it will act on your legs. Your legs will be stretched apart, and obviously will not be able to survive there. That's for sure. Anyway, we don't know what happens. So anyway, once we're talking about things beyond the event horizon, it's better not to talk about it because there is absolutely no way of knowing what happens and what doesn't happen. But the observer will see that this person is fixed in time, fixed in the event horizon. He or she will take infinite amount of time to fall through, and these things are really interesting. Now, as because the black hole curves space-time, not just space, it also curves time, and so it's really interesting. Suppose this is a black hole. So there is approximately at 2.6 quadrant radius, light can behave like this. I mean, light can just behave like this. Light will just come here. It will just orbit the black hole and just go off. It can behave like this. And now, if you ask me that if black hole is like pulling in all the light, then how could we see the black hole? How could I show you that photo of the black hole? Because some amount of light will reach your eyes, and we will only see a magnified image of the black hole. And that's why the image was very fuzzy. It was like obviously it was very far away, light years away. But yeah, if light approaches the black hole in any closer distance, it will obviously be sucked in like this, and you know what I mean. But the thing is that we could make out the image of a black hole, but that is not what the black hole actually looks like. Because for instance, in this light disk, if I was standing here, though that's not possible physically, obviously, then the light here would in this disk, I mean at this particular distance, light is just moving in a circular orbit. Beyond this distance, light will just move away like this. And if you're more closer to the black hole, light will just fall into the black hole. But at this distance, light is just moving in a circular spin. Now, do you understand what this means? That means I will be able to see the back side of my head just by looking forward, because the light from here is traveling in circle. You know what I mean? That obviously all this sounds crazy, and black hole is not something we could visit, obviously. But that is the point. And the black holes maybe, there were many kinds of black holes. For instance, supermassive black holes and the normal stellar black holes one. Supermassive black holes are obviously like huge. The weight, their mass is millions of times the mass of the sun. And even this Sagittarius, this is a supermassive black hole which is present at the heart of our own Milky Way galaxy. And it is expected that like at the core of every galaxy, every big galaxy, there lies a supermassive black hole. Earth is obviously a safe distance away from that black hole. And well, anyway, the black holes can also be of two types if you are like on the basis of spin. There will be spinning black holes and there could be fixed black holes, like stable black holes. So most black holes actually do spin because obviously all stars spin, and black holes are ultimately formed out of stars. And moreover, on 22nd November, most of you will know what I'm talking about. 2014, there we've got a X-ray burst. Astronomers found X-ray burst. Now that is most probably because of a black hole that has been theorized. So for instance, if here's a black hole, what is the idea is that a star came too near the black hole. Let's assume this is a star. It came very near to the black hole. Okay, this is the black hole. So what will happen? This region of the star is closer to the black hole than this region. So this region will feel the gravitational pull to its maximum extent. So like it will sort of if you see it from outside, you will see that the star is slowly melting, and this region, it is being stretched like this, and then it will slowly begin to orbit the black hole, and then all of the mass of the star will slowly be pulled, and it will begin to orbit the black hole. Now the angular momentum of this star is again contributing, and this black hole, it feeds on this dust clouds and swirling matter in this. This is basically it's called the ISCO, innermost stable circular orbit. Okay, innermost stable circular orbit. It must be stable orbit. Any orbit closer is not stable, and any orbit outside this is cannot be called innermost, obviously. So like this, the black holes spin faster and faster, and the faster the black hole spin, it will somehow try to tend to decrease the gravitational intent. Like for instance, if you have two black holes, one is not spinning or spinning at a very slow rate, and one is spinning at a very fast rate. So now you tell me, among these two black holes, which could you approach nearest? Obviously this black hole, because this is not spinning, so its gravitational pull is maximum. So this will be more of a danger zone than this black hole. So that's what I mean. More the faster the black hole spins, nearer to it you can approach. I mean this distance will be minimum for such black holes. Okay, the safest distance, not this distance exactly. 3 RS will always remain 3 RS, because the squash radius of a black hole is fixed. Of that black hole is fixed. I think this video was to give you a basic, a rough overview of black holes, and there are many things about black holes. One more thing I would like to discuss is that a black body radiation. Many of you have know what is black body radiation. In fact, whenever you take a course in quantum mechanics, in quantum physics, first thing that you learn is black body radiation. So what is a black body? Basically, you have been taught that an ideal black body is impossible in future. That's what is given in most textbooks. That's actually wrong. A black body is basically a body which can absorb or emit all kind of radiation, all kind of electromagnetic radiation that is falling on it. But for instance, this black hole, this can also be treated as a black body. This black hole is absorbing, obviously it is absorbing all kind of electron radiation, but emitting, can it really emit radiation? This is where quantum mechanics come in. If you are going with the classical Einstein theory of gravity, general relativity, classical general relativity, then the conclusion is that black hole can absorb, suck in everything, every light and everything. But obviously black holes, there is a gravitational pull is almost infinite. The space-time curvature is infinite. How can black hole radiate something? But modern science has the answers otherwise. When the great physicist Stephen Hawking, he tried to apply quantum mechanics to black hole, and he predicted this phenomenon which is known as Hawking radiation or Hawking effect. So it predicts that a black hole, for instance, if we have a black hole, okay, let's assume, it can emit radiation also, not just absorb, it can also emit radiation. Now how could this really happen? For instance, there are many ways to look at the situation, okay, but let me give you a simple analogy. We all know in quantum mechanics that pair production may take place in vacuum also it may take place. Pair production, okay, I'll not go into the details of that. So what happens, basically a particle and an antiparticle pair may pop up in vacuum, okay, suddenly from nowhere, not exactly from nowhere, there are other factors also, for that you need to understand particle physics. So antiparticle means the same particle with the exact same properties but opposite charge. So ultimately they will annihilate each other after some time. If a matter and antimatter, they come too close and they touch each other, they will just explode and annihilation will occur. Then nothing will be left behind. But the thing is that if this thing occurs at the event horizon of black hole, let's assume this is a black hole. So at the event horizon, suppose two particles popped up. Now they must annihilate each other. Otherwise, the law of you will violate the law of conservation of energy. If they do not annihilate each other, then the law of energy conservation will be violated. But if they do annihilate each other, they will not be violated, because after all the charge is conserved, and once they annihilate, nothing else is remaining. But suppose if this happens like at the edge of a black hole, and suppose one particle gets sucked inside the black hole, then the other particle will have no partner that can annihilate that. So this particle will exist, violating the law of conservation of energy. This particle may drift off to space. But the thing is that obviously this is not allowed. So what quantum mechanics predicts is that the black hole can emit radiation on its own, and yeah, the rate at which it is emitting it will obviously vary from black hole to black hole. And if the black hole is too small, if the black hole is not that big, not supermassive black hole or bigger, then it may slowly completely evaporate due to this radiation. It may completely evaporate due to this radiation. This radiation is basically coming because the black hole need to give some of its energy, contribute some of its energy to account for the existence of this particle. You can understand this like this, okay, I'm not going to the mathematics. You can understand this like this. The black hole must contribute some of its own energy to account for the existence of this particle. Otherwise, the law of conservation of energy is violated, which cannot happen. It may happen temporarily in particle physics, but not permanently. Obviously, no, that's not allowed. No, so from where the energy is coming from? That means the black hole must itself be radiating some of its energy in the form of radiation, and that is called Hawking radiation. So I think so. Black holes, obviously, it's really interesting topic, one of the most interesting things in physics. But the thing is that it's really hard to make any predictions on black holes, especially when you cross the event horizon. It's almost impossible. So that was all for today's video. I hope I could give you a rough idea about black holes. Thank you very much.